seen it all, you can't all been.
Buying canned tomato sauce can be a great option if you don't have a lot of time, but when you want to take it that extra mile and go just a little further, then making your own tomato sauce at home can be a great option. Welcome to my channel, guys. My name is James. Today we're going to be doing a very simple recipe. We're going to be making a tomato sauce recipe that has 3 main ingredients, plus the salt and the oil, as always. And then I'm going to explain a little more on how, if you want to adjust the flavors to, well, modify them a little bit, and if you just want to experiment, I'll explain that a little later on in the video. So before we get going today, guys, be sure to like the video down below and subscribe to my channel for more delicious recipes, content, and learning how to cook in general. So let's get started. Now, before we start the recipe, I just want to explain a little bit about tomatoes in general. For this recipe, you can use vine-ripe tomatoes. The riper they are, the better it's going to be. If you can get your hands on some Roma tomatoes, specifically Romas or plum tomatoes, that would be the best option to make tomato sauce. It's the most common. And of course, if you can't get your hands on any fresh tomatoes, then using canned tomatoes can also work, either canned whole or canned pureed. But of course, if you actually make your own sauce like we're doing today with fresh tomatoes like this, you're going to notice a massive difference in flavor with the fresh ingredients that you're going to be using. Now, to start the recipe off, I'm first going to peel and Bernoise my onions. You can cut in julienne as well. It doesn't really matter because we're going to blend at the end of this recipe. If you want to actually learn how to peel and dice and julienne and etc. an onion, then I made a video recently on how to do just that, which you can click on in the corner right here if you want to learn how. Now, after I finish my onions, I'm going to set them aside. Then I'm going to crush the garlic and just slice it because, again, we're going to blend, so it doesn't really matter for this dish. And then with the tomatoes, you have a few options. Either one, you can do the traditional method that we use in the kitchen, where you're going to score the tomatoes, the bottom of them, and then you can put them in some boiling water for a few seconds, drop them into ice water, and then peel the skin. But since I'm going to show you an easy method of making the sauce, and I don't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen, as I'm sure most of you can't either, then we're just going to blend it and pass it through a chinois later, so it's a faster recipe. So for my method that I'm going to use today, I'm going to weigh my tomatoes out for the recipe that we're using, about 1 kilo more or less. I'm then going to wash them as well as I can. You want to get all the dirt or anything off. Then I'm going to take off any stems or vines that they have on them. And I'm going to take my paring knife as such. In the video, I'm going to place my index finger on the tip of the knife, or just up from the tip. This is going to prevent my knife actually going through too far and cutting myself when I'm taking out the top core of the tomatoes. This is the only piece of the tomato that you need to take out. So after you cut all of the cores out, nice and neat, you don't have to rush for this because fast is slow and slow is fast. It's better to go slow and not cut yourself than to wind up having to stop everything and then put a band-aid on, trust me. After you have everything done, I'm going to take the tomatoes and I'm just going to slice them with my knife from top to bottom. Again, top to bottom after you turn them, and then slice them sideways. It doesn't matter having to cut the tomatoes so small because we're going to be cooking everything down. And of course, with all the time cooking and when you add the salt, it's going to break everything down. And one little thing about tomatoes, just an odd little bit of information. So before the Europeans came to the Americas, we didn't have tomatoes in Europe, of course, no? And originally, tomatoes, they thought originally that everything was poisonous. So they did not used to actually cook or eat the tomatoes. They actually used to use these just for decoration around the house until someone got the bright idea that the fruit was edible. However, the stem and the leaves, such as this here, are a bit toxic. So they're from the nightshade family, and many other plants are in the nightshade family as well, such as aubergine, I believe, as well as potatoes. So just one of those things, good to know. Don't eat the stems or the leaves. And if you have heartburn while eating tomatoes, because they can be very acidic, then what you can do is add a little bit of sugar to the sauce to help calm the acidity, just a bit. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my pan out that I'm gonna use. Try to get a big one that has a wide base to this, because the more contact that you have with the cooking surface or the hot surface area, the faster the sauce is going to cook. I'm going to turn the induction on. I'm going to add a little bit of oil, or a little more, because you need a little more olive oil in tomato sauce. I'm going to add my onions in. I'm going to saute them for a few minutes, and I'm then going to add the garlic in as well. You can add a little bit of salt now, as it will help with the cooking process. It'll add flavor as well. You always want to cook with salt. It brings out the flavor. Once the onions turn a little translucent, and even if they caramelize a little bit, it's okay, because this adds flavor. Actually, it'll make it sweeter. I'm then going to add the tomatoes in, and you'll be having to adjust the heat while this is cooking. You can turn it on high and then lower it down to medium, but just keep an eye on it while you're cooking, and keep stirring it as well. With tomato sauce, it's one of those things that you don't want to just leave and forget. You actually have to keep an eye on it, like I say most of the time, because it's my habit with cooking. But it will prevent it from burning, because otherwise this will burn. But this will take a little bit of time to cook down. Once it gets to the point that you see in the video, more or less after 20-30 minutes, it's been cooking and reducing and reducing. This is the consistency that you want to blend. I'm gonna take my little hand wand, my hand blender. I'm going to plug it in, hold the pot at an angle away from me, and blend away from me so I don't splatter myself with hot tomato sauce. You can put it back on the stove, bring it back up to temp. Now I'm gonna take another pot plus the chinois or the sieve, and I'm going to pass it through the chinois. After you pass the sauce, and you can see all the debris that we collected, it was actually quite a bit, you can bring this back up to temp and give it a taste. Add a little more salt if it needs it. And now as well, if you do have a little bit of heartburn, you can add like half a tablespoon or more of sugar, of white sugar. It'll sweeten it a little bit, the sauce, but it will prevent you from having so much heartburn, because again, with a lot of people, they tend to have this problem of acid reflux, and I know it can't feel good, because trust me, I get a little bit of it myself. There's one thing that I would like you guys to do, and write me down below if you've done so. Experiment with this recipe. Take this simple and easy basic recipe that I've given you and take it to another level. Add a little bit of rosemary to it, or take a little bit of fresh basil and add it at the end to make another sauce. And just keep enhancing it and learning. There's one thing about cooking, is that one, you always learn. You never stop learning, even after 10, 15, 20 years. You're always learning something. The other thing is you always have to keep progressing or testing things to see if this works or if that works, to take it to another level, because this is one thing about cooking, is that it never stops. You always learn, always cook, always innovate. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope you enjoyed this video as well. If you did, please hit that like button down below, as it helps with the algorithm greatly. And of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already, so you won't miss any content or any videos, as well as hit the bell, so that way every time I post a new one, you'll know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon.
Seen it all, it can all benefit you. Femme fatale, I can't fall in love.